She is conscious of her own image and hates that she was even mentioned. She was referred to as some kind of pet or possession. She's my beautiful little monster. Sometimes I have to release these little monsters on the world.
Blake Lively completely loses it after Taylor Swift reminds her she is not a pawn to be used.
Taylor Swift is very smart. She is media savvy.
Taylor did what any sane woman would do. She cut Blake off without hesitation. A decade-long friendship gone, proving once again that snakes can exist even in the closest circles. And Taylor saw it coming.
Taylor Swift is taking a step back from her friendship with Blake Lively after feeling like she was used as an intimidation tactic by the actress in a lawsuit that she never wanted to be embroiled in.
Blake Lively has officially ruined everything. A decade-long friendship down the drain, all because she thought she could drag Taylor Swift into her mess and get away with it. Let's be real, this is entirely Blake's fault.
Taylor Swift is no longer talking to Blake Lively.
Taylor Swift, a 35-year-old music industry powerhouse, had been loyal to Blake for years. She was the godmother to one of Blake's kids, and they were once inseparable. Now, done, over, completely nuked.
So I don't even think they're not friends anymore. She's the godmother to her children, but I think that Taylor Swift is publicly backing away from this friendship because she's intelligent.
And it all started with Blake trying to play power games in Hollywood.
Taylor Swift's shock involvement in Blake Lively's highly publicized legal roller coaster with Justin Baldoni rocked the foundations of their decade-long friendship.
Now, enter the Justin Baldoni lawsuit, a $400 million legal war zone that somehow sucked Taylor into the chaos. Blake, being her usual manipulative self, decided that she wasn't getting her way in the film It Ends With Us, so she tried to intimidate Baldoni.
Is she being used, or are people starting to jump into lifeboats because Ryan and Blake's Titanic, the ship that not even God could sink, is sinking? It's going down.
And how did she do that? By literally calling Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds her dragons, as if they were her personal attack dogs. Like, girl, what? This isn't Game of Thrones, and you're definitely not Daenerys Targaryen. More like a budget villain who thought she was running the show.
We all know the backstory here. Blake Lively essentially threatened, you could say, Justin Baldoni, calling Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds her beautiful little dragon monsters that she sometimes has to use to get what she wants done.
Taylor obviously was furious. She had nothing to do with this mess, but suddenly, her name is being dragged into a massive Hollywood legal battle. Sources close to her said she was royally pissed off. And honestly, who wouldn't be? Blake had the audacity to use Taylor's power and influence as a threat against Baldoni. Not only was it shady, it was straight up career suicide.
They're no longer friends because, shocking, Taylor Swift feels used. She always feels used. And she wants nothing to do with the Justin Baldoni situation.
Then came the biggest red flag of them all, the Super Bowl snub. Taylor was out there living her best life, cheering for Travis Kelce, partying with Ice Spice and Lana Del Rey, while Blake was nowhere to be seen. That wasn't an accident. Blake wasn't invited. After years of being in Taylor's inner circle, she was cut off, just like that. Swifties noticed immediately. No cute selfies, no sideline bestie moments, nothing. And when Taylor decides someone is done, they are done.
Her friends also think that Blake's "I'm Khaleesi and like her, I happen to have dragons" text to Justin was uncool and unnecessary because she was essentially used as an intimidation tactic. She was referred to as some kind of pet or possession. Taylor shouldn't even be involved in this at all.
Then came the Daily Mail bombshell. The article was strategically dropped, making it crystal clear. Taylor and Blake are over. No more brunches, no more vacations, no more fake Hollywood friendships.
Is that Taylor Swift has plugs, especially at the Daily Mail, when she wants to get a narrative out. The person that works for her is this woman named Tree, and Tree is allegedly vicious. She will protect Taylor Swift's reputation by any means necessary.
But let's really dig into how Blake backstabbed Taylor. This wasn't just some minor misunderstanding. Blake calculated this. She tried to manipulate Hollywood connections and use Taylor as a pawn in her fight to take control of It Ends With Us. But what did she actually do? Oh, just the most desperate power grab of all time.
Taylor Swift was just in the mix a lot. You know, she's listed on special thanks to Taylor Swift on the credits of It Ends With Us. We had a lot of question marks about why that was. And again, just her particular flavor and style.
First, Blake was obsessed with making It Ends With Us her movie, even though it wasn't hers to control. She wasn't the director, she wasn't the producer, but that didn't stop her. The studio had a vision, and Blake didn't like it. So what did she do? She went behind their backs and hired Taylor's music video editors to secretly redo the film. Completely unprofessional. Who does that?
Just her particular flavor and style of I'm the victim and like these horrible men did something to me. And I personally did not feel that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds had the star power to get the New York Times to risk their professional reputation to help take down Justin Baldoni.
The studio obviously was like, absolutely not. They saw what Blake was doing and rejected her cut of the film. And that's when Blake completely lost it. Instead of just accepting defeat, she went full Hollywood villain mode and threatened Sony with a tell-all to the New York Times. And this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment meltdown. This was premeditated.
You're going, Blake Lively's going to lose this, okay? So we're gonna take a lifeboat now and say that we don't wanna deal with this. She could still, by the way, be friends with Blake Lively in the background. If Tree is as savvy as I think she is, she's probably gonna say to Taylor, pretend to be shocked.
A Reddit post from August 12th, months before any of this went public, leaked everything. And guess what? It turned out to be 100% accurate. Blake gave Sony an ultimatum. Either let her control the movie, or she was going to drop a Hash Me Too scandal on Baldoni.
There's a Reddit post, an anonymous Reddit post, I kid you not, that went up 6 months ago. 6 months ago, during the week of the It Ends With Us premiere.
And that's exactly what she did. Justin Baldoni, the actual director of the film, was exiled from his own project. Sony literally banned him from the lot. He wasn't even allowed near the editing process. And then, the biggest proof of Blake's manipulation came to light: leaked metadata. The New York Times article wasn't some random expose. It wasn't a case of, oh, this information just came out. It was planned. It was calculated. The article's preparation dates were traced back to October 31st, proving that Blake had been plotting this scandal for months.
It Ends With Us world premiere was August 6th. That's when they had the red carpet premiere. Justin Baldoni gets put into the basement. August 9th is when you, me, if we wanted to, could go see it in theaters. This person on August 12th decides to write a whole long post because they're overcome with emotion and they don't know where to drop it. And that's what Reddit's for, right? You can't say it to people that you know, so you just drop it on the platform.
Let's just take a moment to really absorb the level of desperation here. Blake thought she could play dirty Hollywood politics and use Taylor Swift as a human shield to get what she wanted. And what happened? It backfired spectacularly. She not only lost control of the film, she lost her biggest ally.
She was essentially used as an intimidation tactic. She was referred to as some kind of pet or possession. Taylor shouldn't even be involved in this at all. She was only going over to visit Blake and Ryan with the understanding that the meeting would be over.
Taylor, being the genius that she is, immediately saw what was happening and cut ties before the backlash hit her. Blake, meanwhile, was left scrambling. She thought she could use Taylor's name to intimidate people. Instead, she lost the one person who actually gave her credibility in Hollywood.
Taylor shouldn't even be involved in this at all. She was only going over to visit Blake and Ryan with the understanding that the meeting would be over.
And let's be honest, Blake was punching way above her weight class here. This isn't some indie drama. This is Taylor Swift, a billion-dollar empire, the most powerful woman in entertainment. Blake seriously thought she could drag Taylor into her nonsense and just walk away unscathed? Please.
Taylor has politely backed away from it all. She is conscious of her own image and hates that she was even mentioned. Okay.
Blake has officially destroyed her career with this one. She went from being Hollywood's golden girl to the industry's biggest liability overnight. No one wants to work with someone who pulls these kinds of stunts. And now, Taylor is thriving while Blake is burning.
She must have read Blake Lively's edit. So why is she backing out here? Very carefully worded back out. Because she's smart. Okay? Taylor Swift is very smart. She is media savvy.
It's honestly hilarious how Blake thought she could manipulate her way to the top, but instead, she ended up at the bottom. She's got nothing left. The Super Bowl snub was just the beginning. Blake is now a Hollywood outcast, and she did it to herself.
With Ryan Reynolds and with Blake Lively. And for that reason, my friend, I am sorry, but you have to be subpoenaed. I'm sorry. You're coming. You're coming to court. I am subpoenaing Taylor Swift in this lawsuit that I had nothing to do with. But I'm telling you right now, Justin Baldoni, subpoena her. Because she's got something to do with this, okay? I'm not saying how much she has to do with this, but I'm saying that Reddit post, it's giving me like we're on the money here.
Blake Lively thought she could use Taylor Swift like a pawn in her Hollywood power play. But Taylor did what any smart, self-respecting woman would do. She cut her off and let her crash and burn. Blake miscalculated everything. She thought she could get away with dragging Taylor's name into her ridiculous mess, but instead, she ended up exposed and humiliated on a global scale. And let's not forget, Taylor was actually supporting her at first.
Blake Lively, you deserve all of this! This is a reckoning she needs to hear. This isn't bullying. This isn't harassment. This is accountability, girl.
At the beginning, Taylor was all in. She even allowed her song, My Tears Ricochet, to be used in the film, which, by the way, is already a favor most artists wouldn't do unless they trusted someone. But here's where things get murky. Justin Baldoni's lawsuit flat out states that Taylor peer pressured him into approving Blake's hacked up version of the movie. That's a huge accusation. And guess what? Taylor is officially credited in the film under special thanks. That's not speculation, that's a fact. So was she actually involved in Blake's sabotage mission all along?
TMZ dropped a new podcast, Two Angry Men, in which Harvey asked Justin's lawyer Brian about the subpoenaing of Taylor. It was easy to read between the lines. One thing is clear, Taylor feels used. It's a huge falling out. Taylor is godmother to one of Brian and Taylor's kids. Whoo!
And then there's the composer drama, which only makes Blake look even more pathetic. Apparently, Taylor wasn't happy with the film's original composer, someone she had past beef with. And let's be clear, Taylor Swift is a billion-dollar empire. She's not just sitting around complaining about old grudges for no reason. So what did she do? She demanded the studio remove the composer.
Not only did they remove the It Ends With Us composer, but they decided to use Deadpool's composer, okay?
And because Taylor Swift's influence is unmatched, Sony actually fired the composer and replaced him with the guy who worked on Deadpool, aka Ryan Reynolds' guy.
That she then went and heaped praise on Blake Lively's version of the opening scene. That's what his lawsuit states. This is when they were talking about that rooftop scene.
Now, did Taylor lie about her involvement? Because publicly, she made it sound like she had nothing to do with any of this, but receipts say otherwise. She can try to distance herself from Blake all she wants, but her fingerprints are all over this disaster.
What do you mean you showed up and the meeting was still going on? What does that mean? What does that mean? I showed up and the meeting was still going on. So what are you being victimized by? If I show up at my friend's house and there's a meeting going on and I didn't know it was still gonna go on, I don't need to insert myself in that meeting.
However, unlike Blake, Taylor actually knows how to handle PR. She saw how toxic this whole situation was getting and jumped ship just in time.
If Tree is as savvy as I think she is, she's probably gonna say to Taylor, pretend to be shocked that this article came out, but we're getting you out of this publicly. We're gonna throw this article in the Daily Mail, then you tell, I don't know what happened.
Meanwhile, Blake is drowning in her own stupidity, and Ryan Reynolds is not helping her case at all. Because let's talk about SNL 50, the event where Blake Lively was supposed to redeem herself, but instead, she got publicly humiliated. This was supposed to be her big moment. Her comeback after the scandal, where she would step out looking unbothered and in control. Instead, Ryan Reynolds turned it into a joke on national TV, right in front of millions of viewers.
How's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
Now you're poking fun at it. So now it's just a big joke? This whole thing's a joke? This is absolute cringeworthy and they should be ashamed.
Ryan stood there laughing it up, making jokes about the lawsuit as if his wife wasn't claiming emotional distress over it. And Blake just sat there. Let's get real. If you were actually traumatized by a legal battle, Would your own husband be making fun of it on live television?
Did Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively make their first public appearance at Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary, they made a joke about it all.
Social media destroyed her after that. Fans were not buying it. You can't cry victim in court documents and then sit there grinning while your husband cracks jokes about it. It completely wrecked their credibility. People called her out for being fake, and honestly, they were right.
I love the acting. She's really, what? Have you heard something? Have you heard something? Even Steven Spielberg's kind of like, okay, what? Now, definitely people laughed at it. It got some laughs.
And who wasn't there to witness the embarrassment? Taylor Swift. She was invited, but she skipped the event entirely because she wanted nothing to do with Blake or Kim Kardashian. And this was the final nail in the coffin. Taylor used this opportunity to fully erase Blake from her life. No more public support. No more interactions, nothing. But the SNL fiasco was just the warm-up. The real power move came at the Super Bowl. Blake used to be part of Taylor's inner circle, but when game day came, she was nowhere to be found. And everyone noticed. Instead of Blake tagging along like she usually did, Taylor was surrounded by Ice Spice, Lana Del Rey, and the Haim sisters. It was a very clear message. Blake was not welcome anymore.
Taylor Swift has decided to rain on her parade. Now, this will say it's from a source.
And let's not forget, Blake's own brother-in-law publicly apologized for previously supporting her. That is brutal. When your own family starts walking back their defense of you, that's when you know you messed up beyond repair.
So her follow-up text, which reads like a psycho, obviously, I'm Khaleesi, these are my dragons. She said it because you did something, okay? He clearly texted and said, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to have Taylor Swift there to make me look at your edits. And Blake Lively doesn't say, oh, what are you talking about? Taylor Swift said nothing to you. Instead, she doubles and triples down by saying, she's my beautiful little monster.
And fans definitely noticed the shift. Taylor wasn't acknowledging Blake at all. No mentions, no public support, no interaction whatsoever. Even the godmother rumor changed. Blake had spent years pushing this idea that Taylor was the godmother to all three of her kids. But now, it's suddenly just one. Which makes people wonder, was Blake exaggerating Taylor's role in her life for clout this entire time?
She must have read Blake Lively's edit. So why is she backing out here? Very carefully worded back out, because she's smart. Okay? Taylor Swift is very smart. She is media savvy.
Because let's be honest, Blake Lively was using Taylor Swift to stay relevant. She's not some A-list powerhouse on her own. She needs the association with bigger names to keep herself in the conversation. And now that Taylor has cut her off, what does she have left? Nothing.
And the A-list pals are struggling to move on from the fallout, with the Bad Blood singer 35 no longer communicating with Lively, 37 according to insiders. Daily Mail previously reported that she had taken a step back from the Gossip Girl alum.
She tried to play the Hollywood manipulation game, and she lost spectacularly. Now she's an industry joke, a liability, and completely irrelevant without Taylor to prop her up. Meanwhile, Taylor is thriving, unbothered, and smarter than ever.
People are putting snake emojis. Taylor hates snakes. Kim Kardashian, all these people who manipulate her, she doesn't want that in her life. People who are using her. She feels like she was leveraging her name. As we reported, there was a critical meeting at Blake and Ryan's penthouse with Justin to discuss a scene that Blake had rewritten for It Ends With Us.
Blake thought she could backstab Taylor and get away with it. But instead, she got publicly humiliated, exposed for being a fraud, and abandoned by the one person who actually kept her relevant. And honestly, she deserved every bit of it. Blake Lively thought she could manipulate her way to the top, but now she's sitting at rock bottom, watching everything crumble before her eyes. Her career is an absolute free fall, and it's nobody's fault but her own. After the disastrous PR nightmare that was the Justin Baldoni lawsuit, Hollywood has completely turned its back on her. And honestly, it's hilarious.
In her lawsuit, she's claiming she's just so torn apart. There's so much trauma and she can't sleep, she can't eat. And I'm embellishing here, but you know how they try to spin this.
Let's talk about just how bad things have gotten for Blake. 0 major projects lined up. That's right, not a single confirmed film, TV show, or endorsement deal in sight. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds is still thriving. Deadpool 3 is moving full speed ahead, Marvel is pushing it as a major 2024 release, and Ryan is set to make millions. And what does Blake have? Absolutely nothing. And trust me, Hollywood insiders are talking. The whispers are getting louder, and what they're saying isn't pretty. People behind the scenes have been saying for years that Blake has a reputation for diva behavior, and now it's finally catching up to her. She always played the role of America's sweetheart, but the truth is, no one actually liked working with her. She thought she was untouchable, but without Taylor Swift backing her up, she's completely exposed.
You mean girl bully! If this is real, Blake Lively, you deserve all of this! This is a reckoning she needs to hear. This isn't bullying. This isn't harassment. This is accountability, girl.
And the worst part? Even her own family is abandoning her. Robin Lively's husband literally had to retract his public support for Blake. That is brutal. When your own brother-in-law is backtracking his defense of you, that's when you know you've officially lost everything. Blake is losing allies left and right, and there's no saving her now.
With a story that says that Justin was sexually harassing her on set if they don't let her have her own version.
Meanwhile, Taylor Swift is coming out of this like a genius. While Blake is spiraling, Taylor is thriving. She has completely distanced herself from the scandal, leaving Blake to deal with the fallout alone. And let's talk about why Taylor is the ultimate winner here. First of all, she is completely unscathed. Her name was briefly dragged into the lawsuit, but she was smart enough to cut ties before it got too messy. And now, she's bigger than ever. She's already working on a new album, and you just know there's going to be a song about this betrayal. Taylor turns every drama into a hit song, and Blake just handed her a perfect storyline on a silver platter. If we've learned anything over the years, it's that Taylor knows how to capitalize on a breakup, whether it's romantic or platonic.
And it's kind of been one of the things that I've been stuck on of reading these text messages of her talking about doing the rooftop scene and that she wants to be taken more seriously and she wants to get her hands all over the project and everything else. And then she gets on the red carpet and says to the reporter that Ryan was the one who wrote it.
And of course, Taylor's PR machine is running at full force. Her team controls the narrative perfectly, making sure she stays the victim in all of this. And let's not forget Tree, her legendary publicist. Tree is making moves behind the scenes, carefully orchestrating Taylor's next steps while letting Blake destroy herself.
They fold, okay? The editors, the writers, journalists, when she says, put something in the mail, it gets done. And I'm not saying that part allegedly. That is a fickety fact, okay? Take that to the bank, start a 401k. Tree knows how, when she feels Taylor Swift is being threatened, she's gonna protect her reputation.
Blake seriously underestimated how fast Taylor could flip the script. She thought she could use Taylor's power and influence, but instead, she got cut off before she even realized what was happening. Taylor saw the red flags, distanced herself, and now Blake is the only one suffering the consequences. And now, let's talk about Blake's complete downfall. This is a Hollywood tragedy at its finest. She was once seen as a golden girl, someone who could do no wrong. Now, she's a complete social outcast. No one wants to work with her. No one wants to associate with her, and no one trusts her.
And now there's plenty of evidence that shows, because of Blake, that she incorporated Taylor, Taylor's notes, what did you think, Taylor did this, Taylor's song, yada yada. Now Taylor's involved.
She lost Taylor Swift, lost industry respect, and possibly lost her career forever. This isn't just a small misstep, this is a full-blown collapse. Blake made one critical mistake. She overplayed her hand. She thought she was playing chess, but she didn't even realize she was playing against a grandmaster. She used Taylor for power and got burned so badly that she may never recover. She thought she could strong-arm Sony, manipulate Justin Baldoni, and weaponize the New York Times, but it all backfired spectacularly. Now, She's left with nothing but the wreckage of her own bad decisions.
Taylor is also learning Blake has been inappropriate leveraging her name for a long time, like telling a young actress that Taylor cast her, which simply did not happen. Oh my God. If this is true, holy crap.
And what's Taylor doing? Moving on, thriving, winning. While Blake is scrambling to save what little is left of her career, Taylor is moving on to bigger and better things. She's surrounded by new friends, working on new music, and completely unbothered by the drama. Blake seriously underestimated what happens when you mess with Taylor Swift. Because Taylor doesn't just end friendships, she erases people. And Blake just became the latest example of what happens when you cross the most powerful woman in the industry. This was a masterclass in canceling someone without even lifting a finger. Blake ruined herself, and Taylor just sat back and let it happen.
If I'm a friend and my friend, if you're my friend and you write this about me, I'll be honest, I'm definitely going to hold it. I'm definitely going to have some issues with you moving forward because this isn't appropriate. Go ahead.
Blake Lively's downfall isn't just some minor Hollywood setback. This is a full-scale collapse, and it's getting worse by the day. She thought she was untouchable, but without Taylor Swift backing her, she's just another washed-up actress with no future in sight. And let's be real, this isn't the first time Blake's career has been on life support. For years, Blake has been desperately clinging to relevancy, and her filmography speaks for itself. Outside of Gossip Girl, which ended over a decade ago, what has she really done? A couple of forgettable rom-coms, a few flops, and nothing remotely impactful. Her last big role was A Simple Favor, and that was back in 2018. It Ends With Us was supposed to be her major comeback, but instead, it's become the film that completely destroyed her credibility.
It becomes very suspicious. I could definitely see her not being happy with this, and it really brings up a lot more questions.
And let's not ignore the fact that Hollywood has been side-eyeing her for years. Blake has always been known as someone who gets by on PR, not talent. Unlike Taylor, who actually dominates her industry, Blake has always relied on connections, gossip, and name-dropping to stay in the conversation. And now that Taylor has dropped her, she's got nothing left to stand on.
Ooh, I could see real bad blood brewing. Real bad blood is brewing, Kim.
The industry has no patience for actors who pull these kinds of stunts, and Blake's legal mess has made her a massive liability. Who's going to hire an actress who publicly dragged a major film studio into a lawsuit, weaponized the press, and then got exposed for being a manipulative snake? Directors and producers aren't going to risk dealing with that kind of drama. And don't even get me started on how she torched her brand deals. Blake built her off-screen image as this classy, elegant, effortless woman. But now, she looks like a scheming opportunist who got caught in her own lies. Companies aren't going to want their name associated with that mess.
Just in while we're live, Taylor Swift is having bad blood with Blake Lively. I am not your dragon. I knew it.
And let's talk about how Ryan Reynolds isn't even helping her. His career is thriving while hers is completely dead in the water. He's not losing work, he's not involved in any scandals, and he's still Hollywood's favorite sarcastic golden boy. But Blake? She's officially a liability, and Hollywood has no use for her anymore. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift is still at the top of the world. She walked away from this scandal with zero damage. She's working on a new album, making headlines for all the right reasons, and surrounding herself with actual A-listers. Blake tried to use Taylor's influence for her own gain, and now she's paying the price. No projects, no support, no future. This isn't just a fall from grace. It's an absolute career obliteration. This wasn't just bad luck. This wasn't a simple falling out. This was Blake Lively making the worst career decision of her life, and Taylor Swift making the smartest move possible. Blake Lively played the game and lost, badly. Taylor Swift walked away stronger, while Blake is left picking up the pieces of her ruined reputation. Let this be a lesson. Never bite the hand that feeds you. Subscribe for more updates because this drama is far from over.